What's going on in the 8th century? Europe is in the what? Dark Ages. The fall of the Roman Empire and the rise of Islam. If you teaching colonial history, the 13 colonies, you generally have a Eurocentric view. It leaves out Andalusia. It leaves out the Islamic input into the discovery of the New World. In order to get America to get to the market, you sail the Atlantic and you have to cross what? Morocco, to get your ships to dock and do business, right? First treaty that America has is with Morocco.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. And welcome to Islamic Oasis Live. Dear brothers and sisters, today we have a very special guest with us, and actually a very special topic. A topic that will include many other topics. You will get to know, hopefully, inshallah, our guest, some of the topics that we probably have never explored, and the connections between the West and the East, the way, inshallah, our guest will do. Now, who is our guest? We have Dr. Sultan Byrd, someone that I know for probably good 20 years too. I think maybe around that, maybe more.
Maybe more.
Probably more. I mean, since my teenage years, to be honest, I think we know Dr. Sultan, someone who I've always looked up to, who's been very, very, who in many ways guided us in the inner city, the kind of work that we've done with, there was, our brother Hassan and with Abdullah Madioul in inner city and Masjid Hassan. It's almost a historical place, to be honest. So there's a lot that we're going to discuss. But today, subhanAllah, we have Dr. Sultan, someone he's the director of operations at the Institute of Islamic, or the Islamic Institute of Urban Affairs, who's been professor emeritus at NEIU, Northeastern Illinois University, and NIU, Northern Illinois University. He's the organizer. Many of you may have seen him at Masjid Hassan, the most famous, the feeding program that happens on a weekly basis, 20 years now, that has been going on, and iftar programs every Ramadan, and dawah programs, and it's a whole masjid. It does its own thing. But the topic today is when we think of Andalus, the Muslim Andalus, and the role of and the connection of Muslim Andalus to, when we think of Americas, heck, maybe even Chicago. This is going to be the most interesting part of one of the many interesting parts of this interview. So inshallah, let's get into it. Dr. Sultan, first of all, welcome to Islamic Oasis Live.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Well,
good to be here with you, Aki.
It's an honor, Sheikh, really. It is an honor. So Dr. Sultan, let's, as I said in my introductions, there's many topics that we're going to discuss today, or to try to explore. First thing, what I want to know is about you, yourself. Who is Dr. Sultan, Sheikh? And you just recently finished your doctorate.
That's correct.
Which is for a lot of people to look up to, because even myself, I've been trying to get this done for the last 10 years and I haven't gotten to it. But you, subhanAllah, it's someone that we can say, man, that's what it means to get things done. Give me some of your background, Sheikh. How did this journey begin?
Well, actually, this journey is part of my mother's journey. My mother was a very young girl when she had me. We're 14 years apart. And we're from the South. My mother was a sharecropper. My grandfather was a sharecropper. And she left the South and came to Chicago about 16 years.
Sharecropper means?
Sharecropper, that means you grow cotton. But in this particular situation, my family grew cotton Okay, it wasn't their farm. It wasn't theirs. They grew, and then they paid supposedly. The cotton was sold, and then they get their share, right? But the way things situated, you really didn't get any money, right?
It was just name and share.
Right. So, my mother sought a better life, right? And education was so important to her because she only finished the 3rd grade when she came here to Chicago, right? And so my family had a big fight about her coming to Chicago. Her and her sister and her brother, right, came to Chicago. And her oldest sister was like, no, you can't take him. And she was like, no, this is my baby. So it was a thing to bring me, because by the time she was 19, she had 3 kids.
I don't know.
Okay. So, but she was so determined that she wanted to learn. So I became her tutor, right?
Wow.
And so, this was a thing. She worked and she sat down with me and, we did it. So we continued that whole situation until high school. And so I was the Blackstone Ranger. And
that's a game.
Right.
Oh,
Blackstone Rangers was a gang in Woodlawn, right? But it was a very progressive gang. It had all the elements of good, bad, and the ugly. Okay? And so, but one thing happened with the gang. Oscar Brown Jr., who was an artist, right? He had came to us and he said, look, y'all giving us bad publicity. And so I can't give people, most of his customers were suburbanites, right? And so gang violence in the newspaper all the time, kind of was hurting his business. So he came and he made an agreement where he said, look, I'll do a show for you guys, split the money with you, if y'all can be peaceful, and make peace with the other gang, which was the disciples in our neighborhood. And so at that point, we was saying, hey, we know how to sing, because even though I could have been 15, 16 years old, I was a professional entertainer, and it was others. We had groups. We were singing in nightclubs, this, that, and the other, right? And so Oscar was like, well, what can you do, right? And so we set up an audition. He was blown away.
How old are you then?
About 16.
16 years old.
He was blown away. Okay. And so he was like, how, yeah, right. Okay, so now what? So we put together a show. And that show, we sold out many audiences. We took it all the way to Hollywood, California.
Oh.
We're on the Smothers Brothers program. It was a national television program, prime time Sunday night, Blackstone Rangers in Hollywood. It was something.
Put Chicago on the map.
It put Chicago on the map. It put Blackstone Rangers on the map, and it put young Black Americans on the map. And I really didn't realize what it was until years later. But I'm a graduating senior in high school.
So now you're 19.
No, 18, 17, 18. I'm finna graduate. Okay. So we go to Hollywood in January. So when I come back, but before we left, because we had other high school students, so we made an agreement with the school that because we hired a Board of Education tutor to travel with us. Okay. So we were gone 4 or 5 weeks, something like that. Right. So I went to the principal and I had addressed the issue with him, and he said, well, I need proof, need this. So I wrote a letter and had all my teachers sign that letter that if I do some work and the tutor goes with us, that they were fine. And so I got that signed. I gave the letter to Dr. Blight. He was the principal. So when I came back from Hollywood, right, I thought I was a star. I'm just a kid, but I'm riding cloud 9. So when I hit the steps of the school, I was met by crowds. They followed me through the hallway, all of that, right? It was something. So when I went to my class, the teacher said, you can't be here. I was like, what are you talking about? She said, well, you can't be here. You have to go to the office. I was like, what is this, right? So wasn't no thing. I went to the office. When I got to the office, they knew what was up. And they was with Dr. Black's in there. And they just pointed me to his office. I was like, what? So I went in, I said, Dr. Black, what's up? And he was saying, well, we dropped you from the enrollment because all the days that you missed. I say, but the letter, he looked me square in my face. He said, what letter?
Wow.
I couldn't believe what just happened. But I'm a star. 17 years old. I don't need you. Of course, the language was really bad because it was like, how dare you, And so I walked out. And so that, for a minute, it took a minute for it to really weigh on me. And then once it weighed on me, I went to night school. And because I had a
So you still stayed in school no matter what?
Right. I went to night school with my mother because she's going to night school.
How old is your mother at this time?
She's 14 years older than me. I'm 17. So, right. She's 31 or something like that, right? So, I'm going to school with her. I'm graduating senior. I don't need but a couple of courses, right? And so I went to that semester and I graduated. We both graduated at the same time, okay? And so at that point, I began to look toward education, the way I never looked at it before, even though I kept singing, I was doing different things. But I began to be a focal point on that. And part of that is because my mother, she got her master's and she finished as a retired school teacher.
Wow.
Okay.
SubhanAllah.
So my story is part of hers.
That's why you are the way you are.
She is so determined,
right?
That, you know what I mean?
SubhanAllah.
I just couldn't stop. I couldn't let that go to waste. To me, I mean, that's how.
So when did you get your master's?
About 10, 12 years ago.
And then you kept on. And how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 76.
You're 76. And you got your PhD when?
December the 13th.
Okay, so you're talking about that's last month.
Last month, yeah.
So and the reason I'm asking is that so the age was no thing to you. I
never thought about it.
This really is amazing. And that's one of the reasons I was shocked. Actually, I was surprised, shocked when I met you. A couple of weeks ago, someone, I think it was your wife, she texted, and I was shocked because because of that, someone had passed away, and we were getting all that information. And then somebody mentioned Dr. Sultan, and I'm saying, well, I remember, but Sultan was getting his PhD. Doctor, no way, he got it. I said, SubhanAllah, he got it. Because I knew, I went to NIU also.
Right, yeah, we was there at the same time.
Right, and at that time, you were already working on your PhD.
No, I was working on my master's probably then. Oh, wow. Right, I can't remember.
Yeah, you're probably doing your master's at that time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you kept going and you did what you had to do too. So now your PhD is on, what was your dissertation? Okay, history of...
U.S. history.
U.S. history. And so... And then you, SubhanAllah, so you get your master's, you get your PhD, and then you're actually lecturing at the same universities that you got your master's or your PhD.
Yeah. I taught social movements on history at those universities.
Wow, social movements. Something I need to. All right. So so there's a lot to cover about Sultan, and there's so many, mashallah, subjects that you're experts in, your expertise is in. So let's begin with today's topic. When we talk about Al-Andalus, so you as a history teacher, if you're teaching the history of Americas, when we were having this discussion, you said, I begin with Andalus.
Right.
Why is that?
Teaching, if you teaching colonial history, the 13 colonies, Okay, well, how do you get the 13 colonies? You generally have a Eurocentric view, which leaves out it leaves out Andalusia. It leaves out the Islamic input into the discovery of the New World, right? So Andalusia was discovered or established in the 8th century, 711, conquered by the Muslim Tariq brother, right? So
Tariq wins, yeah.
right. So now, what's going on in the 8th century? Europe is in the what? Dark Ages, the fall of the Roman Empire, and the rise of Islam, right? So when you look at Andalusia, because before they got there, you had the Visigoths was the dominant tribe there, right? They are barbarians. There's nothing there but chaos. Europe has allegedly, and I say allegedly because I haven't really seen it, 2 universities. Although Andalusia established 17 universities that scholars from all over came there because of the universities. Let me see, Hakam II, who was the Khalifa there in Cordova, he had a library just 100 or so short of 1 million books.
Wow.
He had a thing for books of knowledge. And if he heard of a book or somewhere, or author, he had a crew, he'd send him to go get a copy. If he had to buy it, it makes no difference because he was obsessed with knowledge. So now the Europeans thought the world was flat. In the 800s, 900s, they thought the world was flat. That if you sail out into the Atlantic Ocean, you would fall off.
At one point, it was just...
Right, you'd fall off. At this point, there's plenty of documented evidence that in 1311, Abu Bakr II, who is Mansa Musa's grandfather, sailed over here with many ships. Okay? So why? They knew
this is again Africa doing what it's doing.
I mean, the Mali, that's the Mali
so West
Empire,
Africa.
right? So, it's plenty of documented evidence that in 1311. But there's other evidence that in the 1200s they came, but that's sketchy. A little more work has to be done on that. But the fact is that the Muslims knew the world was round. They had the equipment to navigate. They had the sails to know how to sail. And also, which is another important aspect, they knew the wind currents in the air and the sea currents under the ground, under the sea. These were the sea currents and the air currents, the combination, it would take you right to the Caribbeans. It would take you right to North America. It would take you right to Jamaica. We know these wind currents by the name hurricanes now.
Okay, so hold on. So are you saying that the Muslims were here before?
Before, yes.
Oh, wow.
Before the Europeans.
Before Columbus was here.
Right. Columbus came in 1492.
Because we were already sailing the seas in that.
They're already got it.
Oh.
When you
but why is this not known, Sheikh? I mean, the whole idea Columbus discovered America and all that. Because this distorts the whole myth that, first of all, some European was the one that discovered Americas. But you're saying it's Africa that discovers, and the Muslims on the top of that.
First of all, nothing is discovered because nothing is lost.
Okay, that's true, sure.
Nothing is lost, right? But the Muslims, they had been coming over here for years, for centuries.
For business and for these things.
Right. In Mali, one of the main tribes is Mandingo, right? Doesn't it sound familiar to say Montego Bay? When you go into these, you'll see some of the African names and languages. Well, how did they get there? You know, I mean, they've been there. There's plenty of evidence. Van Sertimer is one of the authors. He's done a lot of work, right, in this area, right? And he has two outstanding works. One is They Came Before Columbus. The second is The Golden Age of the Moors. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, yeah, and the work is there. And then you can get an encyclopedia with Abu Bakr II sailing here now. You couldn't do that 20 or 30 years ago. You couldn't do that, but now you can. Because as revisionist history goes, a lot of things that was left out is now put in.
Mm. And so before we go to the next question, but who are the Moors? Exactly. As you said, I mean, the Moors were. Is this also one of the reasons why we see a lot of like Moors temples and things like this here? Is there any connection there? Or?
It is a connection. Okay. But one of the things.
Of course, there are Muslims, but at least from the perspective of, you know, the name.
Well, let's deal with the name and let's deal with Moors, right? Okay, so Moors is a translation of what? More, right? So the Romans, they part of their empire was Northwest Africa. Well, so was East Africa, okay? And so everything but Libya and Egypt was called Mauritania. Mauritania is Latin. More means what? Black. Tania means land. So in English, it means more land or land of the blacks. So, but there are more than black people in Northwest Africa. So depending on when you're talking about everybody over there was called Moors, include Berbers, everybody that was there, because a lot of people came across from Spain, from Italy, all those different places, right? They came. So that was the land of the blacks. Still the land of the blacks. But also, so now European, but the people who are there.
They have Sudan. Sudan is not also as a...
Balad el Sudan, right? Okay, Western, the Suhail.
Sahel, yeah.
The Suhail, which was one of the trade systems that was operating on the continent, that's Balad el Sudan, right? Land of the what? Blacks. That's all. That's what that means, yeah. Right? So, but also what that means is that a lot of the people who use that term now, they relate to treaties. They relate to, for example, this is very important, and I think this get us into slavery and who could be slaves and who could not be enslaved. Okay, so now in 1590, Mansour, the Sultan of Morocco, who was engaged in empire building, which requires gold, and he's getting weapons from England and different places, right? So he invaded the Songhai Empire, right? Askia Muhammad is the king of there, right? So what he did was he declared his empire Dar el-Islam, operating under the Sharia, right? And so what happened, so we're in the 1500s. So now you have slavery going on, right? And there's different slave systems that's happening. We are familiar with the transatlantic slave trade, but we're not familiar with the Muslim Christian slave trade, which is an offshoot of the Crusades, right? A control of the Mediterranean, right? So as ships,
so it's called Muslim Christian trade, just
slave trade.
Slave trade. Okay.
We know about the transatlantic. We don't know about the sub-Saharan slave trade. They don't mention it, right? East African slave trade, the Christian Muslim slave trade. There's different slave trades that are happening at this time.
But they don't mention this. Why?
No,
They're not known. Just historically, they're not.
I know about them. Somebody else know about them too. But they are not. From the victor goes the story. It's his story, and he tells it the way he wants it. Okay, so getting back to the slave situation. So you have particularly Pope Alexander the Sixth, and Alexander, and I'm trying to remember the other pope, but you had Nicholas the Fifth. Okay, so you have these guys. They issue papal bulls that say you can enslave Africans and anybody else who's not Christians. You can enslave them and enslave them forever. Also, you have Muslim scholars issuing fatwas, right? And two, and they'll come to me in a minute, right? But they one is Ahmed Baba, right? And they issue fatwas that ho, in this war y'all having between Mansour and Askia, you can't enslave Muslims. Okay, you can't do it. Okay, and so now they're talking about Muslim, Moors, whatever. You can't enslave them.
But okay, so Dr. Sultan, just before you go on, the slavery issue, is this because there's a lot of empire building going on? So was this more of trying to get free, cheap labor? Is that what slavery was? And the way it kind of initiated?
Part of that is that.
Okay,
and
so
labor. Okay?
Just to get labor, if not even cheap, just labor.
Labor.
So they're not even paying these guys.
I mean, part of Andalusia, they lot of Europeans were enslaved to build those huge monuments or huge castles. A lot of Europeans was enslaved.
So this is across the world that's going on.
Right.
The empire building.
Right.
Wherever there's building, you need labor.
And wherever there's war,
there's labor.
But wherever there's war,
there's warriors,
there's slaves.
Right.
Right.
Okay. I see.
But that's
the fundamentals of slavery.
Right. The difference in slavery is chattel slavery. The transatlantic slave trade that the Europeans was doing is different from any slave.
Is that just in Americas or just also Europe was the same way?
No. This was brand new.
Okay.
So transatlantic slave trade was something totally different.
Right.
Okay.
Because when you look at, I guess, because you mentioned those different types of slavery. I mean, because Mameluke, as you know,
right. they were slaves. Right.
But these guys became caliphs.
Right.
They went on to become sultans.
That's why.
Okay, so I guess
different. That's why chattel slavery. You're not going to be nothing but property. You are going to be property. Your children are going to be property, and you have no rights. This is you're stuck there. You can't change categories. That's it. Okay, that's what made. And then the viciousness of it, and it is on a whole nother level.
Right.
But getting back to who could be enslaved and who couldn't be enslaved. So now you have a religious component being into the slave game. Okay. And so, for example, so what happens is as America becomes a country, they have to do business. So where's the market? The market is Europe. There's no market anywhere else. So to get from America to get to the market, you have to come by Morocco.
Again, so let's say there is Americas, right? I mean, but there's indigenous people here,
right?
In the Indians, let's say they call them the Indians, but let's say the natives, Sheikh, were they ever involved in any type of slavery before the?
No, they were enslaved. Columbus and them enslaved them, and
there was no slavery going on at all.
Not that we know of.
Okay, so when the Europeans show up on the map here, all of a sudden they try to
enslave the people here, and that didn't work, right? And then they start bringing in the Africans, okay? But
South America, for instance, at that time, I'm just trying to get that history down, just because I've never heard. There's a lot of stuff that you're saying that's just amazing to me. I mean, so when you look at South America, so there is South America, right? There's that.
Right.
Those people they were never enslaved in any way. They were never enslaved. Were they ever bought to? the north to be
everywhere
their slavery.
everywhere that the Europeans came, Brazil,
Okay.
I mean Peru,
Right.
slavery was going on.
Okay.
Okay, that's because that's what this thing was all about, right? You got to have it's agriculture because during the period we're talking about, the cash crop was tobacco, sugar,
Right.
okay, coffee,
Mm.
and they got introduced to cocaine too. Okay, so but coffee and sugar, these are I mean particularly sugar. Once the Europeans got the taste for sugar, even though there was a little bit going on with the Normans, but once they got over here, okay, and like Hispaniola, now Haiti, Haiti, they had these huge, this is how France got their wealth. All those big palaces, Louis XVI and all of that come from sugar. And they worked at least 20,000 Africans to death each and every year. And when you begin to look at that, then you can understand why you had the Haitian Revolution. We're going to die anyway.
Let's fight it out, I guess.
Okay. But anyway, to get back to
Let's get back to East again.
yeah, right.
Okay.
To you get in order to get to the market, you have to America, to get to the market, you sail the Atlantic, right? And you have to cross what? Morocco. To get into the Mediterranean,
Right.
to get your ships to dock and do business, right? So the first treaty that America has is with Morocco.
Right.
And so within that treaty, there's this agreement that if any Muslims or Moors get captured in your territory, you won't enslave them, you return them back to where they from, and vice versa. If the Christians get enslaved in your territory, you will return them back. So you have this treaty. It's called the Friendship Treaty, 1786. It's like it's maybe about 3 different treaties, but the one I'm talking about now is the Friendship Treaty. So and then it's written in there. So now you have in 1790, it was like four Muslims and their wives who were brought into slavery in South Carolina. And so they fought it. And because Muslims is illiterate, there's a good portion of literate people who are in Islamic communities, right? So they knew of the treaty.
Okay. I see.
They knew, because in order to know about the treaty, you had to read something or somebody had to, enlighten you. So they challenged their slavery in the courts. And the courts in South Carolina in 1790, and of course, we don't have any authority over them because they're saying we are free subjects of the King of Morocco. All of Africa and North Africa is Dar el-Islam.
Right.
If a Muslim is part of an ummah, one community, right? So now the court's saying they have no authority over them. So now they petition the South Carolina state legislature, and the state legislature issues a More Sundry Act of 1790 saying we have no authority over them. We must return them to the king, respect the treaty of 1786 and return them home. But that is not that famous, but it exists. But Abdul Rahman Ibrahim, his story, the Prince Among Slaves, is familiar with everybody. But this is the background where that comes from. That's how he becomes
a free movie,
right. That's
like
how
that King Tail. Is that what it is?
Right.
Okay.
He was writing the government. I'm a Muslim.
Do we have this any history of how many Muslims were brought here in those ships?
I mean, everybody. I mean, if you could the closest number you probably could get if you go with these insurance companies, because they insured those ships and insured those slaves.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so
Insurance company. Who are these companies? They're actually insurance.
Aetna, Lords of London.
So Europe is okay.
This is how capitalism grew, is from slavery. That's how it grew, from slavery.
I mean, I guess the utilization of labor.
Free labor.
Free labor has no cost.
Okay,
Right.
free labor. You got hundreds of people working for you. You don't pay them. You can't help but to be wealthy unless you're a fool.
Sheikh, you mentioned a few things here. I mean, there is Bani Umayyah. I mean, I guess Bani Umayyah being Sufyan, Muawiyah.
Oh, you made empire.
Bani Umayyah. So, and of course, Bani Umayyah related to Abdurrahman, who begins
On west.
the West Andalus.
Yeah.
Why is that important?
Because the world, we're starting the modern journey. Okay. The modern journey, the Europeans are backward people. They have no knowledge of nothing. So if they're not exposed to Andalusia, where do they learn from? Where do they learn from?
So, Dr. Sultan, let me make a connection for today. In today's, if we, you see the migration of the Muslims today in Europe. There's a lot of that discussion going on that, the Muslim problem in Europe, as I'm sure you've heard of this new, the thing that's going on now. But you mentioned something which is very interesting. You said, well, Europe was so behind. They're living in dark ages. It's the Muslims' introduction, well, let's say the Andalus in Spain, that actually enlightens Europe. It brings enlightenment to Europe.
Right.
Can you connect this for me, Sheikh? That time, Andalus, the Muslims of Andalus enlightening Europe, and today's Muslims coming to Europe. Is there any
colonization is the main motivation for migrating, for moving? Why are you gonna leave your country? It's about trying to make a living, because they have colonized your country. They have destroyed it, the system that before was there. They've taken resources. Your country is scrambled eggs. You have many countries in Africa. They have all the resources that you possibly can need. The Congo has the stuff that for batteries and cell phones, all of those, but they are not developing it. Somebody else is. How you going? They can't live. They trying to. It's all
when it comes to Europe, when it comes to Andalus, Muslims come to Andalus, but Andalus becomes a reason for enlightenment to Europe. But what you're saying is today, when Muslims, or I guess today's migration is because of colonization. It's the other way. They're bringing oppression, colonization, tyranny, dictatorships, and rape of the lands, to be honest. So that's amazing, Sheikh. So what is the history of Andalus, Sheikh? What are we supposed to know? Moors came out of that. They got to know. It's a especially if the Muslims in now, why is that important for them to know Andalus?
Number one, when there's for any people, but particularly the African American community, there's several things that has to be overcome. One is generational poverty.
Mm.
4.5 million African Americans left slavery. And what did they leave slavery with? Nothing.
They were never compensated.
Correct. That's a very difficult hole to come out of in a materialistic society.
So you're saying capitalism, because it's so much about materialism.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is a materialistic society we live in. You're in it with nothing.
Right.
Trying to survive, that's a real difficult situation. And another one is generational ignorance. Okay? And the other one is so important too, is morality.
Mm.
Okay?
Interesting.
And one last situation. If you get shot on the street, people around you, they will what? Call an ambulance. The ambulance come. And what will the ambulance do? They will try to deal with your trauma. Because a bullet to your body is trauma. And they're going to try to stabilize you from that trauma.
Right.
They take you to the hospital. Right. They're going to take you to what? The trauma unit, not the respiratory, not the ambulatory. They're going to take you to the trauma unit. Right. If they can't stabilize the trauma, it makes no difference. You're going to die. Slavery, chattel slavery, is a trauma. It's a trauma on a group of people. When have they dealt with that trauma?
Wow. So you're saying this is generational trauma too?
Until the group, I'm not talking about an individual dealing with, until the group deals with that trauma, that generational poverty, that generational ignorance, we're going to be stuck somewhere.
But, I mean, and then to extend that, would that also be, I mean, is that also the history of colonization then too?
That's
I mean, we're all coming from colonization. I understand it, but I'm saying, let's say me being from India, let's say, right? But
India,
we're all
here. This is a colony. The slaves here are colonized, just like they were colonized wherever, India, wherever.
So you're saying we are going through a trauma. So is this where the whole idea of everybody just trying to survive? I mean, the idea of survival, that's all, because it doesn't go beyond survival.
Yeah, but okay, I'm saying one of the things that Malcolm did is he said, the African struggle is your struggle. Our struggle is their struggle. We're all oppressed. We're all oppressed.
Sheikh, I mean, is this why? I guess I'm taking it to a different thing, but I don't want to go away from the subject. But why study this history, Sheikh? Why was it so important for you to study this history, and especially this part of the world?
I've been studying history since I was, I was in the second grade. I used to ditch school and go to the Library of Science and Industry. And stay there the whole day and just learn different things about different places and whatnot. I've been a historian all my life. Okay, I was studying ancient Egypt when I was 12, 13 years old. I was reading the Ancient Book of the Dead by Bulge, this British guy. Right. I was 12, 13 years old. I've been doing this all my life. I didn't just start.
But this is not common.
I ain't got nothing to do with that. this is the Allah has given me intellect and He has guided me to use it. And so I'm doing it.
But again, I am, why this part of the history, this area, this, we're talking about, I mean, look, you did U.S. history in general, I guess. Right? Your PhD was in U.S. history.
I did composition in Chinese history. Okay.
Say that again?
Chinese history. I've done my comp. You have to do comps and for your masters. I did African history. You have to do something other than continentally different than what your major is, right? I did Asian history and I did African history. I've been doing African history all my life. So that was my first encounter with Asian history, but I did just a little bit, the different dynasties and whatnot about China and China, but
so U.S. history, Asian history, African history, you're doing all of this.
I've been doing that all my life.
Sheikh, so let's go back to the subject here. There is here's the thing. You said something like between the 1400s and 1800s, there were 6 enslavement systems operating.
Right.
You have the Atlantic slave trade. You have the Northeast. You have the Muslim Christian. Then you have the Saharan.
The Suhail.
Okay. And then you have the East African.
Right. And they're going to Asia, taking them to Asia, and then the other one is taking them to India. And
all of this, because why is this so important? One is that, okay, there's, I guess, empire building taking place all over the place. But also, why else is this slavery so important, Sheikh? That so many people are doing it. And everyone is doing it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, this is it. I mean, chattel slavery is the big dog here.
Because the amount of slaves that were captured, or what's the issue?
All of the above, the amount of how they were treated. Okay, because there are other elements about this that people don't discuss. In 1807, United States passed an act that forbid you to bring slaves into the country, right? 1807, right? So we know in 1863, slavery was outlawed. So what was going on? They didn't stop dealing in slaves in 1807. So what did they do? They created the domestic slave trade.
Also within the
country, they started breeding. They have breeding farms. Chattel slavery, the American slave is different from any other slavery.
Oh, so you're born into slavery, and then you just in generational slavery, just one after the other.
Right.
So that's why you have rape and you have forced. Oh wow,
this is really ugly. It is very, very ugly, and most stuff that we know about it is sanitized.
Well, tell me more. I mean, what is?
I mean, I'm just saying. You got breeding farms,
and they are in south of the U.S. Or they're below.
Okay, so what happened? Okay, here's an example of how things evolve in Virginia. Okay, so Virginia, Maryland, they were the first cash crops was tobacco, right?
Right.
But greed is an ugly animal. So now when you plant in an area, you cannot continue plant in that area each and every year.
Right.
You have to switch up,
right.
Let the soil replenish itself.
Right.
But the growers, the plantations in Virginia and Maryland, they didn't do that. They wanted all the money they could get as fast as they can, et cetera, et cetera. So they burnt out the soil.
Mm.
So now you got to have new land. This is when slavery started moving toward the Mississippi.
Mm.
Because part of the whole Civil War thing was if you moved because across the Mississippi, you got other things going on. You got homestead, you got land, you got cattle, you got sheep, you got wheat, you got all these different things going on. So slavery, you can't have free labor and paid labor in the same dimension. It ain't gonna work. Okay. So now you have industrialists saying, don't bring slavery west of the Mississippi. We don't care if you keep it over there. We really don't care. But because you burning the soil, you got to have new land. So they kind of trap. Okay. So, so that's what moved slavery west.
See, that's
right?
why you're breeding. You're constantly.
Right. And so, but the main point I was getting to, you're in Virginia, you got thousands of slaves and you got no work for them. So what you going to do? You sell them to those going west with new land.
So, Sheikh, what were the ages of slaves working on these lands? I mean, because if you, it's like you have to constantly produce.
Yeah,
if you're going to.
That's what. Remember when we talked about Haiti? They worked 20,000, at least 20,000. They just worked them to death, and just get some more.
Yeah, because there was not enough. I mean, there's not enough labor. There's just not enough. So they had to just
get some more. But I'm just saying they're working them to death. They don't feed them properly. They don't rest them properly. They just work you. They just work you till you fall out. That's it. The plantation, what do? They work you. Can't see in the morning to can't see at night.
Wow.
They don't get no concern for you. This is they work you to death.
Sheikh, okay, so every time I go through this history, I'm like constantly surprised. I mean, we think we know enough about slavery, but this is not known in. I mean, this is not in. I can't take a class on this in high school.
No, they're trying to get as much out of the books as possible now.
I mean, especially now,
right now,
because I know I was when you look at I guess Trump administration and things like this, they're removing a lot of things from history and even from museums. They want a certain image.
They're sanitizing it.
So now, how does that affect, especially the African Americans? To be honest, how does it affect colored people? Let's put it this way.
Okay, so number one, I think that as African Americans here in the United States of America, you need to study history from 1850 to 1930. If you don't know anything else, you need to understand that part of history.
1852?
Okay? 1850 until 1930.
Why 1930?
Well, I mean, everything was set by then. Okay. So,
meaning you have the resources to
right. I'm saying, okay, so coming out of slavery, right? Okay, you coming out of slavery, 1865, you're coming out of slavery, right? So now you have no name, you have no nothing. Everybody's got trying to figure out where to go and what to do. So everybody's looking for what? Looking for something to
hold on to.
Okay. So, this is how you get the 7-day Adventist. This is how you get the Moorish Science Temple. This is how you get the Nation of Islam. Everybody is looking for something to hold on to. This is how you get Marcus Garvey. Okay. Because everybody's trying to.
They're holding. Sheikh, let me ask you. I mean, the amount of. Fine, we don't have exact number on how many slaves were Muslims and stuff like this. And it's actually interesting that there's some court cases, I guess, like you were mentioning. So you have the Nation of Islam, we have the Marcus Garveys, you have all of these things are happening, Sheikh. But Sheikh, why do you think Islam did not really make a imprint right after slavery? I mean, Islam is still relatively new in this country.
No, it's not.
I mean, I guess from the
you have to remember, okay,
relatively new from the sense of what people know.
The majority of
the majority of the population. And answer that. Just include whatever you. But I guess what I'm saying also is that, so you have so many Muslims who are coming here from, let's say, almost 200, 250, 300 years. But Islam is still not major part of this culture here, even though it's been here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So what is it that, didn't allow Islam to grow?
Yeah, because morality is a big situation. You got to remember, it's always the war against Islam. When you start looking at the history, you get Spanish edicts in the 1500s. Do not bring any more Muslims here. Okay?
Because they're worried about
slave revolts. They're doing dawah. They're recruiting. Don't bring no more here. This all through the flick. They're putting pressure and making laws. Don't bring them here. Okay. There's a book called The Walking Quran, right? The Walking Quran, and he showed you. I mean, there are books about Maroons, and it's half true, because when those ships docked in the Caribbean, and sometimes when those ships docked, you had Muslims they was running. They went into the mountains. Okay, they went running, right? Okay, so and then they come raid
from day one.
From day one. Okay, they don't write you about them. They don't tell you about them, right? It was just they kept, don't bring them over here. They not only that, but because of the treaty, the ones who know about the treaties, they're gonna be screaming, trying to get to a court, trying to get to legislation, because they know they Muslims. You're not supposed to enslave me. So that part that affects the slave trade, if I don't tell you about it, how you gonna get it? You got to dig it out yourself.
And Sheikh, this is subhanallah. So so you're saying this played a major role in not the population in general not knowing about Islam.
It's a concerted effort. Once you get here, is to make sure that you're indoctrinated with Christianity.
But Sheikh, even Christianity, they didn't want them to even know how to read or write.
They're teaching you. You ain't reading. They teaching you. You have one person or couple of people on the plantation who could read verses. You're not going to, reading. No, that ain't happening. Right. So, but I'm just saying it's about, and even when you went to church, you didn't integrate with the white population. Right. Even on the plantation. Right. Okay. So, right. So, but it's it's certain parts of the Bible, the Hamitic, was called the Hamitic myth, right? Ham, Noah, one of Noah's sons, right? Was the black one. He was cursed, right? So, yeah, right. So you're supposed to be enslaved to obey your master. All of those type verses, they make sure those are just pounded on you. That's what they did. Remember, did you see, what is it, Roots? The movie Roots.
Yeah.
There's a scene, several scenes in there that is Islamic. But one of the main scenes in there is Kunta Kinte is in the barn. Fiddler comes in with some food, and he smells it. He said, this is a swine. And he has the rug, he finna pray.
Right.
And Fiddler say, you can't do that here. You can't, no, they'll kill you. You can't do that here. Okay? Yeah, so they threatened any kind of, it was remnants all over the place. I remember when I was a little boy, I used to see my grandmother making voodoo. I had no idea what it was.
Oh, wow. Actually, I didn't ever get to part of it. Were you born Muslim?
No. But I'm just saying, it was remnants everywhere, all over the place, that about different things of Islam, because it was always been here. And like I said, my grandmother, I didn't know, she water, nose, feet, and my aunties, you tell my grandma, Mama, you getting water all over the floor, all over the place. she was elderly but she's making voodoo all the time. I was like, I didn't know what it was till I became Muslim.
Oh,
And
you became Muslim when, Sheikh? How old were you? I never realized you were. But subhanallah.
Probably 30 years, 30 or something like 35, something like that. Yeah.
I mean, I know you good 20 some years.
I'm almost 100, man. You know what I mean?
No. Okay, so that brings to another point too. That I guess your professors were telling you that. I mean, you're part of history yourself.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that you're writing. I mean, you've seen it,
right?
So when we look at the civil rights and all of this stuff, Sheikh, I mean, I guess when you're writing all this stuff down, I mean, are you part of the witness to this?
Some of it.
How does that get recorded in history, like as a historian?
Well, I mean, just like I did the dissertation. See, I was here when Dr. King came to Chicago.
So you met Dr. King?
No, I didn't meet Dr. King. I was I could have been 14, 15, something like that.
How about Malcolm X?
No, way before. I was never around him. But when Dr. King, he came to Chicago, they had a movement here in Chicago, it's called Open Housing Movement, 1966. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, but what happened was the year before, one of his lieutenants, James Bevel, came to Chicago. And he was here a whole year because the civil rights movement, the SCLC, was trying to find a place up north to come and exercise their movement. And so they was trying to figure out Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. They was trying to figure this out. And so they had people in those different places exploring. Okay. So what happened was Bevel told him, Chicago, you can work it here in Chicago, but you have to work with these young boys. That was the Viceroys. That was the Blackstone Rangers.
That was the disciples. 60s?
66. 1966.
I mean, that's a history that we can get into too. But why are the gangs there, Sheikh?
Because they are in and they're armed. Yeah, but 1960, I'm trying to remember that the census was like 19,000. No, I'm sorry, 19 million. 11 million of them are under 15.
Gangsters?
No, the population.
Okay.
The African-American population are mostly teenagers. That's your constituency. Whatever you're doing, you got to gear it toward them.
Wow.
Okay? So now, and not only that, they are all over the city. Okay? So when Dr. King, he got him an apartment on Hamlin, right? When he came up in January 1966. The apartment he got over there, the first people that came over there, it was 6 of them. I know 3 of them. Doc, Bobby, Gore, and Pepolo. These are viceroys. Those was the first ones to visit him. And they stayed until wee hours of the morning. Then he came on the south side and he met with Eugene Harrison and Lamar Bell. And these are Blackstone Rangers. Okay? Because this is how he's going to move in this city.
So that's the leadership.
So this sets the stage of the war on gangs. Because what they're doing, they're holding political seminars with the viceroys, with the Stones, with the disciples. This is how power works. This is how things work. So now the war on gangs officially starts.
So hold on. So what you're saying is that because he's meeting, or there is some type of a plan, political plan, and because the gangs are already organized. And so that means that this could be already a power to deal with. So the government realizes this and says,
oh no,
let's end this and call it war on gangs. It's like war on drugs.
I mean, it was maybe a year later when they officially did it, right? Because Orlando Wilson He was a police superintendent. He created the GIU, Gang Intelligence Unit, and their specific goal was to destroy the blacks, neutralize or destroy the Blackstone Rangers. That's in the articles.
But do we have any idea of how big the gangs were, Sheikh? I mean, Chicago is, was always being mapped.
There were thousands of them.
Wow. Okay, so that's
But it goes, we later on we can go into how that evolved into a whole different thing.
We need a whole different discussion on that because that's a very unique discussion we have to have about Chicago itself. But a few more questions, Sheikh. Regarding this. Let me just to reconnect, just because I think I don't know. I probably asked you another question regarding the Bani Umayyah, because you have it as a point here. Why is that? You said okay, they build the Khilafah happens in at that time in Syria, in Sham, right? You have Abu Sufyan, and then his later on, or his grandsons is the one that builds the Imara in Andalus. Why is that connection important to know?
Because it's one Ummah, right? There's a Basit. It decayed too, because the Abbasids was on that end, took that over,
right?
And then on this end, it decayed too. Right, it decayed in what they call fetas, the small, different, because that's when the Almoravids came in. Yassin and Almoravids came in, right? Because
you're talking about Abdullah ibn Yassin,
right? Okay, because things had decayed. You had
Al-Muwarid movement. That's what you know.
Yeah, he had you had the Franks and the Jews bringing in slaves. Right? It's the moral compass of the Andalus had begun to decay. That's why Yassin them came in he was like a mujaddin. He come in with the hammer to put it back together.
So he's the mujaddid.
Correct.
He brings it, he
brings order back, because they
in Andalus or in
Andalus.
In Andalus. And Sheikh, how about the Murabitun? What is their role in all this?
The teachers,
Yeah.
So you saying the Marabats? I'm trying to see.
Murabitun.
Look, they're teachers, right? But they have a militant side to them.
Right.
But they travel, they do dawah. They travel, they do dawah, right? Yassin, he was traveling doing dawah. He just having to build that little military thing, right? You go to the Fulani, you got some tribes, that's all they do is dawah. Sanoki, that's all they do. They just travel and do dawah. This is how the deen spread through Africa, through merchants, and marabats.
Murabitin.
That's how the way it spread. People doing business and then because that's why
Fulani is a tribe.
Yeah.
And so this tribe was known for dawah itself?
Fulani, yes. You had Wolof, all these tribes are Muslims, right? They've been Muslims forever.
Sheikh, is there any way is this something that, let's say, the African Americans do to connect, to see what tribes they may be with in Africa, or is that something not even?
It's they have all kind of DNA services that's supposed to.
So people do try to connect back?
Yeah, people do try. And I'm not sure how effective it is, but
see, you mentioned something, Sheikh. You said generational ignorance. What role does that play in? Okay, let me put it this way. When any people or any nation that forgets its history, I guess as they say, if you want to end something, you just make people forget their history. So how is that connected to generational ignorance?
A tree without roots cannot grow.
Hmm.
Try growing a tree without roots.
But Sheikh, you can't. So that's not
Okay,
not
so
possible.
that's right. So
We do have all these trees now.
yeah, but I'm just saying, but you got to, wherever your roots. I know I'm from Arkansas. You know what I mean? I'm from Arkansas. I can go
Oh,
that
great.
far back, right? Grandfather was in Georgia.
So there's
and
something.
and my family is doing
Hmm.
that type of research. We got some of our family. We got some of that, right? And so we'll take it so far. Maybe the kids after us will take us a little further. But we started the ball rolling.
No, but I guess in a sense that the African Americans, right, should there be special maybe programs, schools, institutions formed that should be doing this work to bridge the gap so that this generational ignorance has to end somewhere.
Yeah, the institution. I have reservations about that. What's done at home is more important to me than the institution, because people build institutions.
Right.
And so at home, you need to get that straight first. Okay, people say, well, these kids this, well, what are they doing at home? That's where the problem starts. It don't start out there.
So what should they do? What should be happening? And if there's an African American family that's watching this, to be honest, any Muslim family, anybody watching this, because look, I am connected to you in many ways than we even know.
Your morals are one of the most important things it is. Because
what does that mean? What does that mean?
That means you have some boundaries. That means you won't do anything, and anything can't be done around you or in front of you. You respect your elders. Like the young brothers we have, we try to teach them, you gotta have some boundaries. You can't walk around like this. You can't be your pants hanging down. Come on, man.
I see.
You gotta have some boundaries. Morals give you boundaries. If you don't have them.
No, but how you're saying if we are able to teach morality, is that morality is going to connect to education? Is this, what is it? Because when we say generational ignorance, what are we saying here?
You're saying your mama's ignorant, your daddy's ignorant, your grandfather's ignorant. Nobody had nothing going intellectually. Okay. He could have been a drug addict, whatever, right? They just surviving.
They're just surviving.
Okay. So what could they pass on to you?
Oh, now, okay. Yeah, and you better have something to pass on. That's what you're saying.
Right.
Other than what we're seeing across the world.
Right, because that ain't taking us nowhere.
I don't know.
We've been, I watched our community, different aspects destroy. You can walk through the neighborhood and find 5 liquor stores before you go 10 blocks. That shouldn't be that way. That's because, we don't have any morals. And and oppression creates a situation where you wanna not face today, not face your life, not face your problems, try to escape, self-medicate.
Look, you said all right, you can't pass 10 blocks without passing maybe 5 liquor stores. Dr. Sultan, does it bother you that those 5 stores may be belonging to Muslims?
Yes, it does, but I understand what that is too.
What is that? That's part of morality.
They didn't make hijrah for the deen. They made hijrah for the dollar. Hijrah meaning they migrated. They came for money. They didn't come for the deen.
So even on that end, there's also morality missing.
Okay.
So, wow. Sheikh, wow, that just got me dumbfounded. It's because, so fine. Look, you said generational ignorance. You said generational poverty. Why is that important? I understand the ignorance, obviously,
Okay.
but is that you're saying that ignorance, as they say, poverty has a family,
Mm.
right? It's like if you grow up in poverty, it just kind of goes on.
Well, I get, one of the places that I get that from is a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who says that some people's deen is in their stomach.
SubhanAllah.
I mean, that's a comprehensive meaning. How is a cat gonna listen to you when he hungry? You know what I mean?
You know the hadith, Hubbu dunya wa karahiyatul maut, the love of the dunya and the hatred for death.
Okay.
So when you say generational poverty, Sheikh, you are saying you're saying that we need to end poverty, right?
Of course.
How
that ain't happening here, so that's not, and I can't see that happening here.
Ending poverty?
Right.
You don't see it happening here?
Not here.
That's interesting. Why do you say that? I mean, you can't. Let's say, yeah. I want to know your view.
I don't see any indications. Where is there an indication?
You're in the most powerful country in the world.
That don't answer the question, though.
That's what somebody would say.
It's still not answering the question.
I got you. I understand, but this is, if somebody puts that up to you and says, "Hey,"
I'm gonna say, give me some indication.
That's the interesting part. So you're saying there is no indication.
You can't even get health care. How you going? I'm just saying. Give me an indication somewhere, somehow.
Can't even get health care. So how are you supposed to end a generational?
Okay. I mean,
Susan, I don't know if you saw what happened last night. I guess Trump was in one of these Ford motor car companies somewhere, where they make the cars. What do they call that place? The factories.
Plant.
It was in a plant. And I'm relating this to your point. I want to know what you have to say, but especially to morality and maybe even to end of empires. So he's walking through the factory, and this is just yesterday. And he goes and he's talking about how he wants to end history, and he's talking about inflation. So he knows he has no real answers to why people can't have jobs. But as he was walking out, he's in the second floor somewhere, and there's a worker there. I think he was African American. He screams saying, "You pedophile protector." I don't know if you heard that.
No, I didn't.
And then he turns around and he said something, but then as he walks, he shows him the middle finger, and he keeps walking. And so they have it all on tape, and it was on NBC this morning. It was on and of course, different channels covered it differently, And this is the president of the United States. So let's talk about power and morality here. I mean, literally, he showed him the finger to the worker, and the whole idea was that he was going to go and show that there was this, there was going to be, you got work, and the whole idea that he wants to bring economy up to a certain standard, things like that. So, Sheikh, when you say, give me an indication, is this what you mean?
That's not an indication of ending poverty.
That's what I'm saying.
That's just a show.
Mm.
That's just a show. You said yourself, he know the job situation, right? So what was he doing? Show.
So to the final point here, how, when I'm looking at this history, Sheikh, I mean, there's so much that you have worked on. Slavery is, a lot of slavery is connected to, as we said, building empires. Today, we are in an empire, the American empire. How do you connect to the African American or poverty to today's empire situation? As you as a historian, you as a professor, someone who teaches, someone who's writing, somebody who's, what is the message? What needs to happen? Because you gave me those 4 points, but you're telling me I don't see any indications these things are going to end.
Right.
But then I need a positive, something positive out of this. What do we leave for the next generation?
We got to figure that out. We have to figure that out. I mean, everything is in our way to do something different than what's going on every day. Okay. So number one, you need to understand how you got where we are. If you don't know how you got here, then how you going to figure out how to get out? Okay. So, one of the things that we need to understand is that this was built and off of slavery. This is a slave society. It is not a society with slaves. It's a slave society, meaning it was built on slaves and off of slaves. So when you have a slave society, that means that what? You need a structure to maintain it. So what is the structure to maintain it? Racism and white supremacy. So we know that in 1865, they ended chattel slavery, right?
Supposedly.
The 13th Amendment, 1865, makes chattel slavery illegal, but there's a loophole in there, except for criminals.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So now this is a slave society. You've banned slavery. So what about the structure that maintained it? What did you do with it? Nothing.
And hence the prison system that we see today.
Well, I mean, that's part of it, but the structure is racism and white supremacy. After you eliminated the chattel slavery part, it mutates into white privilege.
How? I mean, they because of the resources.
Right. Yeah. And you get into school because you're white. That's why they started coming up with these other things, affirmative action, right. DEI, all of that because of white privilege. Well, they ignore that. But they say, we don't need DEI, but you're trying to offset a wrong. That's why you're doing it. So I've been saying, give me some indications. You know what I mean? Because this is where we are. This is the society we live in.
Now, here's the thing. I will make this the last question.
You sure?
Yeah, I will make this last question. Because especially when it comes to, look, Sheikh, we are Muslims at the end of the day.
At the end of the day. Beginning too.
Well, beginning and the end, inshallah. You said, look, Islam, when it comes to Andalusia, becomes the reason for enlightenment for Europe. What is our role as Muslims? Especially someone, as a professor, somebody that came to Islam. I mean, you're talking about somebody intelligent, somebody intellectual, a professor, somebody who sets the standard for what education means in society, the role of education. Why is Islam so important for the West and to the West?
It's an upright way of life. You know, we have, I mean, you can see it. You can see it when you have been in this society, you lived in the streets or you lived in the jails, okay? These type of things will take your humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Islam is that which will give your humanity back to you.
Subhanallah.
Okay.
Subhanallah.
And to be the best human being that you can. The story of Ibrahim, and the fire is how I look at everything. Ibrahim, they threw him in a fire. It was because of the idols. You know the story, right? So it's a big fire. It's so big that they have to build a catapult to put him in the fire, right? So they put him in the fire, right? And so Khalilullah, friend of Allah, this is Ibrahim, one of his mighty prophets. So Allah tells the fire to be cool and safe for Ibrahim. So Ibrahim is in the fire chilling. The people don't know it, but you know. So right nearby is two birds perched on a tree limb. One of the birds sees the fire, a little sparrow. So he flies down to a little pond, scoops up the water, flies over the pond and drops 2 or 3 drops. This because he's a little bit, because he's only 2 or 3 drops. So he goes back and forth and he does that till he gets tired. Then he comes back and he sits on the limb with the other bird. And the other bird looks at him and say, "Man, are you crazy? What do you think them 2 or 3 little drops gonna do on that big fire?" He turns to the other bird and he says, "Look, I do not want to go before my creator on that day and say I saw his prophet in trouble and I did nothing.
Allah.
I did the best that I could do. And that's all of our job."
Man, give me a 5-1. Really, man. This is subhanallah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
You don't want to face your Lord empty-handed.
Okay. You know what I'm saying? We all gonna make that walk.
So the responsibility to spread the deen.
Do what you can, the best that you can. Everybody is not, the same. We don't all have the same tools. But we have to do whatever he has bestowed upon us. We got to work with that.
SubhanAllah. That's the best way to end it, Dr. Sultan. Really, Jazakallah khair for this is very inspirational to me. One of the reasons I do this, is that you get to, first of all, be with people like you, and to, sometimes I think this wisdom probably took a good 70 years to learn.
Yeah.
And here we're getting in within an hour and a half. So that's the amazing part of it. So we'll end this one, inshallah. But we have a lot more to do, bi'iznillahi ta'ala.
Alhamdulillah.
Brothers and sisters, you heard it all. This is, subhanallah, knowledge. This is why knowledge is so important, and to be with the people of knowledge. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our efforts.
Ameen.
And your efforts, Sheikh, and continue to give you success.
Ameen.
Please, it's important, forward, share, and get the ajr, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.